Welcome, everybody. If you can find a place to sit, let's get started because we're running a little late today. Did you hear me? Okay. Then have a chair. Well, you expect our dogs to mind a little faster than that, Tom. So, no, I just don't want to miss out on any time that we have today. So if you're like me, I've grown up in South Dakota all my life, and I am embarrassed that I don't know more about Native spirituality, Native culture, and so we have a chance today and next week to learn and to explore and have a better appreciation, I think. We are lucky to have Jerry Fogg with us for these 2 Sundays. He's a member of the Yankton Sioux tribe. He grew up north of Fort Thompson on the Crow Creek Reservation, and I liked the story he told about when he was a kid, he could just jump on a horse, bareback, ride around and explore the countryside and observe things and learn a lot. He went to the Flandreau Indian School and Dakota State. In 2014, he was named the Sioux Falls Artist of the Year from the Mayor's Awards. I think his art is amazing. As we were setting up on Friday, all the things that he brought, and I realized very quickly that it's not going to mean nearly as much to us if we don't hear the story behind it. So he is going to take us through part of the artwork today, part of it next Sunday, so that we can really appreciate and understand what the stories behind are. And he also has note cards at the back. They're $3 a piece, and I will be happy to sell you some note cards afterwards. Thank you so much for coming, Jerry.
Thank you. And then just turn this. Is it working? Oh, it's already working. There you go. Good morning. Good morning. As you heard, my name is Jerry Fogg. I'm a Yankton Sioux tribal member, which is Ihanktoan Nakota Oyate. And when I first start my presentations and everything else, I always mention, like she did, that I was born in Los Angeles. Then I can see on people's, Hollywood Indian, you know. But I only lived in Los Angeles 1 week. I don't know what my mother was doing out there, but she never did tell me. But anyway, I moved to where, if you know where Chamberlain is, and then Fort Thompson's 21 miles north. I was 8 more miles north of that. I lived with Grandma and Grandpa. They raised me. They were homesteaders. They were hard-working people. He had 16 kids. So I had 15 uncles and aunts. And I always tell the joke that when Grandma would feed us, she would serve me first because I was Takoja, the young grandchild. She'd serve me first, and then she'd go around to the oldest, and then she'd serve her husband, and then she would serve herself. And she would say, now we're saying grace. And I would have my last piece of bread wiping the plate out because I was already done eating. But anyway, I got into art at a very young age. And I kind of contribute my accolades to the fact of nature, wilderness. Because where I grew up on a farm, or on a ranch or a homestead, the only other thing to do but breathe the fresh air was ride horseback. And I'll tell you right now, it's a very beautiful country no matter where you are when you're on horseback and able to see it. Because I would ride along the Missouri River, I'd ride up on the hills and such. But all the beautiful things that I have seen that Mother Nature did, I knew I had no chance of copying, but I could try to form, at least in respect. So I put things together. I would tie things together. I would make stickmen. I found rocks that, fit the fact. I got leather, from my relatives that had extra, and I assembled things. And that got further and further and further. And then when I got into what I call, excuse me, but the white man's world, and I started getting an education, I was kind of put before teachers that wanted me to do like sculpture, artwork, art, painting, watercolor, oil, charcoal. Well, they almost threw me out of class because I got it all over the classroom. But it just wasn't me. I tried to bring it out into the public, tried to work at it, and I'm not being naive or anything else, but if I'm going to do something, I want people to notice, like every other artist. Any artist wants their artwork to be seen. So the case came about to where I knew I had to do something different. I tried painting, and boy, let me tell you, there's some painters out there that you just would not believe. They make a portrait look like an actual photograph. They're so good. And pencil, same way. Charcoal, like I said, I got it all over the place. I didn't know, all over me and everything else. And I tried watercolor, but I had no control. I touched the paper with it, and it would just go like that. So I tried something different. I went back to my old ways. And I found that people started taking interest. The teachers at the high school and college, they took interest. They said, we've never seen this kind of thing before. This is different. And what I would do, what I got in mind when I started doing this was ledger art. The beautiful ledger art of Don Monlo and such and everything else. I didn't want to copy him. And when you do put something on ledger, you're just almost in the seat of copying them. So what I thought was, well, let me take the picture and put the document down and do the same thing they did, but do it with materials, not with pencil or color pencil or whatnot. So I would cut my horses into leather. I would add buttons as shields, war shields, toothpicks as spears and arrows, and just additive things to explain what I was doing. Well, that caught the public's eye, and that's how I really got started in this what I call fogma. See, I tried doing mixed media, but then people were saying, well, watercolor and acrylic is mixed media. So I said, well, multi-mixed media then. Well, what that was is somebody finished their picture and put a flower in the corner. An adornment was the same thing. They'd hang something from the frame. So I said, well, all right, I'm going to get even with you all. I'm going to do my own. I call my artwork fogma. So anyway, in that aspect, it was a far cry from, when I was younger. Because when I was younger, I did not lead the simple life. Grandma and Grandpa, they gave me a good life, but they had to let me go when the government said, you're going to boarding school. Because I was at that cuspid there where people started going where they wanted to, otherwise you had to go where they told you. And when I was younger, I went to a Catholic school, which, pardon the religion, was no fun. We had the nuns, we had the preachers and stuff, and they would pull us around by the ear, jerk us this way and that way, they kept saying, you'll learn. Well, at that time when I was that age, I felt like I knew more than they did. But I survived it, and it didn't last that long. It was only like my first 2 years in elementary. And then things changed. Tribes took over the schools, government took over the schools, federal organizations took over the schools, and it changed a lot. It was such a gratifying feeling that you were there for an education other than to be told you're now what you are. But anyway, I like to always talk and take a moment, because our people, we always had humor. We always try to install something to make a person comfortable. So I have a little story. Long time ago, this warrior, this young man, he come running up to the spiritual leader, the elder spiritual leader, and he says, Tokashila, which was Grandpa, Tokashila, you got to help me. I'm having trouble with my hearing. I'm having really a bad time with my hearing. So Grandfather, he went and he thought for a while, and he put his hands on each side of his head, and he looked to the heavens, and he sang a song, and he pulled his hands back real fast. And he says, tell me, son, he says, how's your hearing now? And he says, I don't know, it's not till Monday down at the courthouse. But anyway, like I advertise and stuff, I always am proud to say that I got a story behind each picture. And I guess I'm here for 2 Sundays, so I'm only going to go halfway around the room today. And then we'll have questions and answers, and hopefully that occupies the time. I'm going to start over here. There's always something about something. I get an idea, and it's a part of history, a story, a part of lore, a part of something that makes me want to put things together. Or an event that happens, or something that strangely happens to me. Like, for instance, this one here, I was in an art show, and she comes up and she says, I got something for you. She's got a paper bag, grocery bag. And she reaches down in there and she pulls out all these strings. And at the end of all these strings are these buffalo heads. So right away I thought, well, yeah, I probably could. I thought they were plastic. I said, yeah, I could probably try to put them into something. So I reached down, I grabbed them and everything else, and they're all cast iron steel. So right away I said, oh yeah, I can use those. So I took and then I painted them and added them together, and you notice the number of 7. Like our 7 council fires, we always talk about that when we got together as a people, the Nakota, Dakota, and Lakotas, we formed a circle of 7 fires. And then we discussed it just like politics. The chiefs and elders and stuff talked about what was going on. But I called this one Blahimiche, Buffalo Nation. Now, Blahimiche is the word for make stronger. So that's my story behind that. I was given those heads, and I just tried to make them stronger. And then putting them in this form, I feel like I've accomplished it. And then we've always had, like a lot of people carry wallets, women carry purses and such. We had our pipe bag. If the pipe wasn't in there, there was always something in there like sage or sweetgrass or something of value we carried around with us. And it was always handy, you'd go out the door, so-and-so wants to meet you over across the way. All right, you'd grab your bag and you'd go because you had what you need in there, supposedly, or what you thought. But then there's the adornment of beadwork, quill work, fringe, and then buffalo nickels on the ends. Just a little kind of bling, they call it. But it's just something that I put together as far as, trying to cover all aspects of Native American life and the way we live what we do. This year is just kind of like a display and stuff. It's my pipe that I carry with me to when I pray or when I honor someone or I celebrate or I present. It's just kind of like an encouragement to me. And it's been passed down. I really don't even know how old this is. I know my great-grandfather had it, and I don't know who had it before him. And I don't know who made it, but it's just something that's like an heirloom, something that's dear to you. Just this year, this piece up here is called The Last Ride. I was informed that the Dakota 38 that were hung in Mankato is on their last ride. They're not going to ride no more. So I got to myself, I said, well, I got to do something. I got to get something out there to express this. So I had one of those old flags I had, and this is how the flag was back in 1862 with the cut-in. But the stars were up in this corner. But I took out the stars and stuff, and I added 38 buffalo head nickels. And then the two at the bottom are the +2, which the two that escaped the hanging and went up into North Dakota. And it's kind of a thing when you want something done, you want it done. They hung these 38. They were supposed to hang 40. 2 got away. Over a year later, they went up into Canada and got those 2 drunk, brought them back across the border, and hung them. It's just, I guess you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, that piece honors them, and it was kind of made out of the fact that hopefully I can find a place to hang it to where it'll be seen by people who know what it represents, the Dakota 38. This piece here I was talking about a little bit earlier, that's an actual document. It's about Custer's last stand. We all pretty much know that, the Battle of the Little Bighorn and stuff. I made the document, that's what I made the document out of. The document was actually just an insurance policy from 1876, which I couldn't believe I found. I was looking through, I'm a Beatle fanatic. I love the Beatles. They're a great band. And I collect memorabilia of the Beatles. So I go to these antique shops and I look through their records and such, and I was looking through the magazines because I know they were on the cover of Life and Post and such. I was looking through there and there was a brown paper bag, so I pulled that out and just out of curiosity I opened it up and this was folded over half. And I was looking at it, I read it, and I said, oh, this looks nice. And then as I read on and looked on, I found that it's officially from 1876. So I took it up to the front counter and I asked the woman, I said, how much you want for this? And she said, well, where did you find it? I said, I found it in the middle of the Post magazines. She said, well, we get $1.50 a piece for those magazines, so I'm going to have $1.50 for it. Yeah, that was like Quick's Draw, going for the wallet. But I made the little Bighorn River in there and added to it and such, and it's called A Soldier's Premonition, to where a soldier went out and took a life policy because he had a feeling of dread while he was at a post up in North Dakota. And then the order came down to round up all the hostile Indians. So they told him that, all right, we're gonna go out and gather up all the hostiles. And that was 11 days after he purchased this document. And none of them ever returned, so it was kind of like a premonition that he had that's where he was going. This piece up here is kind of a bling again. It's miniature. Those bills are miniature. I got one original one. It's about that big. They call them saddle blankets. They were U.S. currency before 1922. And if you look into your history or there's a lot of beautiful money that was that big, the bills that were awesome. But I call it the land buyback program, to which in 1888, the government gave every Native American 80 acres and a mule. My grandfather got it, and unfortunately my mom and my brother and her brothers and sisters sold it after they passed on. But it's just a reminder that when the government issued that land, they told them all, they said, this is your land. This belongs to you. But you can't sell it. You can't give it away. If you want to give it away, you can only give it back to the government. If you want to sell it real bad, you can only sell it back to the government. And the government will give you a dime on a dollar, if even that. So, you kind of get that feeling, was it really our land back. In this part here, it represents Vietnam warriors. It's called the Vietnam War Song. It's a drum, hand drum, to where you sing. And I've heard a lot of war songs from World War I, World War II that are very sad, but they're out there. But this one here, I never heard one from Vietnam. I never heard a song sung for the warriors of Vietnam. So I made a drum, and someday somebody will play that song and honor those warriors of Vietnam. This piece here is just kind of me trying to stay on the right track of religion, just in case, you know. But it's called Calvary Mount. It's where Jesus was, of course, crucified. And the story behind that, you all know, I'm pretty sure. But the only thing that is adornment on this that's nice is the paper in the background. I found an old Lakota Bible. And that's all in Lakota, that writing in the back. It's the same as the Bible, but it's in the Lakota language. This book here, if you ever get a chance to page through it or whatnot, it's about the second part of my show. I got two parts of a show. One is this stuff here, behind glass. And this is called Native Soul art. I also got 11 Degrees of Tatanka, which is a much bigger show. I've had it at the Pavilion, I've had it at Augustana, and I've had it up in Brookings. It takes that much room because it's 11 actual buffalo skulls that I designed and painted and adorned, and they hang 7 feet in the air with their actual hide. Well, maybe not their hide, but an actual buffalo hide that comes down, and a pedestal sets in front, and then I adorn it with realistic artwork on the pedestal. So 11 skulls with hides takes a lot of room. But I have that show that travels around too. In this part here, I just finished this year global warming, because I know that's a big subject. I mean, you got your political things going on with Republican, Democrat. Me, I stay out of it. I just try to live from day to day and survive and do what I can. But I know for a fact that global warming is about all of us. And and when I say all of us, I mean everybody on earth. It's not just this committee is going to solve this problem, or they're going to do this, or they're going to... No, it's about all of us. Then I always greet people with sage and such. It's our medicinal medicine. When you burn it and you live among it and stuff and inhale it, it's got its remedies and such. Now, one thing I didn't know how we were going to do it, but I guess I just do it however we're going to do it. But over in the corner, the first piece with all the little squares, it's called Don't Fence Me In. Those little squares are actual U.S. stamps. They're actual stamps that are used back in the 60s. And the reason why I call it Don't Fence Me In is because the first line on top, they're all mint. There's no cancel punches on it. The second one's got a little bit, and they're all wavy lines. And then the third line, a little bit more. And then finally on the fourth and bottom line, it's all wavy in there from being canceled, delivered mail, which looks like they're fenced in behind a fence. And that just kind of represents the story of way back when the buffalo used to roam the Americas, the North American land in millions. I mean, I talked to elders who said that their parents and such used to tell them stories about how really the earth actually shook when those animals would go through. And everybody would say earthquake, earthquake right away, but when you know it's not earthquake, there's a lot of something running through there. Then the picture beside it is a framed print that I did of He Dog. I like to carry him around because I like to tell the story about when I drew him with pencil, I couldn't get the eyes. I just couldn't get the eyes. I had to erase them about 4 times. So I said, well, I'm done with it. I just put it in the closet. I said, forget it. I'm never going to get it. And then about 3 years passed by, and I was reading a Native American book about chiefs and braves. And I came across that picture. I said, oh, here's He-Dog. And I was reading it and everything else, and when I was reading it, I found out when they took that picture, he was totally blind. He could not see nothing. So that just kind of gave me a funny feeling, so I went in the closet, pulled it back out, got it on the first try, putting it in there with his eyes being blinded. And then the next one there is Journey to the Capitol. It shows a map that today we know them as Corps of Engineers. Back then they were just the Corps. And they drew a map, and they draw those maps so detailed. They even, this teepee is here, it belongs to Big Eagle. This teepee's here, it belongs to Red Cloud. And they would put that right on the map and stuff. And these maps were made before the dams were put in. So you could stand there and throw a softball or a rock across the river or swim across it, for all that matter. But that just shows the difference between what they did with the dams when they flooded out all the land back in them days when they built them for electricity, energy, whatnot. But it was a journey that many times my ancestors made to Pierre, because it is Pierre that's on the map, made to Pierre trying to protest what was being done. And one person said they have no ears. And you know, that statement has always gone around with many things today. They got no ears, just like global warming. We preach, we pray, we talk, we yell, we scream, we shake fists. Still, a lot of people got no ears. They don't listen until it's way too late. But hopefully, something will be done. But anyway, last but not least for my talk today is woman. That piece there, my auntie, God rest her soul, she made the blanket for me, the star for me, and I put it in there. And that is kind of more dedicated to female warriors of all ages. The moon is the symbol of women's, and then the turtle is the symbol of a woman. And it's adorned with regalia of military and adornment with ermine and such as they wore in battle long ago. And it tries to just reflect on giving dues where dues are concerned. Because a long time ago, I listened to stories that when the Native Americans fought in Sand Creek, well, a lot of them were massacres, but Sand Creek, Bigfoot, or Wounded Knee, Custer's last time, they talked about how the women, when they said the soldiers are coming, men were grabbing their weapons and getting to their horses, to get on their horses, but women already had their weapons and they were already running towards them. That's how brave they were back then, because they knew that their fighting that day preserved their children and their way of life. And there's nothing more stronger than a woman on her children and the life of us all. But anyway, we'll continue next weekend. I'll go around for the rest of the pictures and stuff. But I want to thank you all for coming in. It's a good crowd. I'm just so happy when I can speak to a nice crowd. And I've even spoke before 2 people, but I don't care as long as there's somebody to listen. But anyway, thank you so much. Peace. Oh, well, I was just going to say thank you, and then was going to have, but Pidamila. Ho. Any questions then?
Okay, and we'll have to speak into the mic.
I'm interested to know, is there an avenue for young artists to be encouraged and so forth? I don't know. You seem to have come up on your own. Is there a good avenue for them?
Through grants that the government has issued, and certain people, organizations like the Bush Association and such, they give off money for also grants and stuff. But the thing that I kind of find funny is that you hardly find it here in Sioux Falls. It's all over in Rapid City. But then I guess that's kind of a give me, because for every artist here, there's 1,000 in Rapid City. And then on the other hand, to tell you the truth, there's only me and another girl that I know of that are Native American artists in Sioux Falls. But yeah, through grants and opportunities that our own people are putting out there, there is a chance for scholarships for Native American students to attend higher education.
So thank you for coming, and I look forward to next week. Do you have a studio or a venue, where we can come and chat? And
My cards are on the table. Facebook is my studio. It's just, I do a lot of my work on the bed watching TV across the room, sitting on the bed just doing artwork. And I find myself comfortable with that. You know as well as I do, prices are going up on everything. I remember a studio was $150 a month. Now it's like $2,000. And if I ain't selling 3 pieces a month or 4 pieces a month, I can't afford that. And it's sad to say that a lot of artists are that way, but give or take, they still produce the art one way or another. It still comes out. But yeah, the cards on the table, you go on Facebook, you can see. And like I say, there's a lot of other things on there too, informational things, but you just keep scrolling, you'll come across a lot of artwork with stories on them.
This has been fascinating. Thank you so much. My question is, what are those little things hanging over that quilt?
Okay. When I do pieces of artwork, I always kind of try to instill something other than the piece itself. There's 38 of those which are connected to the 38 that were hung. Now what they are, they're cockle shells. The reason why they look so funny is because they're cut in half. It's usually just a smooth hump that you would see with an orange circle around, kind of a yellowish shell. But it took me a long time, but I got 38 of them out of it. They're sliced in the middle to show the fact that we have lost our shelter, our protective covering in what we do. And now these women, they're out there fighting right along with our men, trying to reestablish that protective shell that we are missing now.
Jerry, did you have any formal training, or is this just a gift?
To be honest with you, I did have a little help. I did 1 semester with Oscar Howe, right at his end, right when he was retiring. I thought I was going to do at least 6 years with him, but after 1 semester, and I was just hoping that it wasn't me the reason why he retired. But yeah, and then I've been under the encouragement of Donald Montello. But those guys, they've pushed in there. But as far as an educator educating me, I tried that venue, and it seemed to me that there was something wrong with it. I felt, when you feel funny, you don't want to do that. And when I did at Dakota State College, I'm not going to name no names, but my art teacher just wanted to draw nude women. And I just didn't feel that was my avenue. So I didn't go that route.
Sorry.
We have a picture from Paul Noble. If I were to bring the picture, would you be able to interpret it?
It would be just my interpretation. I don't know if
I mean,
that's
I
what he
don't-
meant to do.
Yeah, I don't know what the symbolism means.
Yeah,
So I
would-
just wondered if that would.
I would try to
something
give
I
it a
could do.
try.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry, it sounds like you speak Lakota.
When I was younger, living on the reservation, we all walked around talking Lakota because we were proud of it. But going to boarding schools and them telling you can't do that no more, and it's disrespectful to people to talk something that they don't understand. They were putting all these reasons why we shouldn't talk. Now they're putting them all in why we should. It's, make up your mind. But yeah, I used to talk a lot of Lakota. The hecho shni manche enta wanhonta ta chalaha. Made ichuhunko ichihinki inchahanka. And that, in terms of that is that I am happy to show today what I do this way and that way and other ways. It's just something that I've said that many times before. That's why I remember that. But to stand here and try to say something to you that I want to express to you, I'd have a hard time, because it's when you don't have anybody else to talk it to back and forth, it's really a sad loss of language.
Jerry, is this artwork that you're showing here now, is it for sale?
Everything's
Everything
for
is
sale.
for sale.
I'll take my shirt off and sell it to you.
I assume that, but
Can you tell us about your experience as a student at the boarding school?
At the boarding school, it was, well, here's kind of a little example. When I went from boarding school into college, I missed my whole first week of classes. And the counselor, the Native American counselor, came over and beat on my dormitory door and said, what are you doing? Where are you? You're missing classes. I says, well, nobody's been here to tell me. No, that just kind of tells you in boarding school they told you when to get up, when to go shower, when to go eat, when to brush your teeth, when to change your clothes, what classroom to go to, when to eat supper, when to go to bed. Everything you did was told to you. You do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. And that was kind of my experience in boarding school. Now, the other sad point of it is I also had a hard time. If any of you haven't noticed, I got blue eyes and light skin. It was kind of a thing to where if anything happened, if we lost a basketball game or somebody lost his girlfriend and everything, that white guy did it. Jerry did it. They always picked on me because I had blue eyes and light skin. But then when I finally transferred to Flanger Indian School, none of that existed. There was other students there that were light-skinned with blue eyes and such. And that was the best move I ever made. I finished my high school years out there. And of course, college, it was a whole different story. You were an adult by then.
So who ran Flandreau Indian School, and it's still there?
The federal government.
So that was a good experience.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Their students came from all over America at that time. And now that's getting kind of small cut for attendance, for the number of students going there. But back when I went to school there was something like 2,700. And they came from all over America. Nowadays, there's probably about 500-600 that come from the 5-state area. I don't know why that is. Maybe because a lot of more Native American kids are just going to public schools. And they're either busing their way in or such and such. They're not segregating themselves. They're just saying, I'm going to public school, and they go.
At the Indian schools that are still here in South Dakota, do any of them have art teachers or people that are trying to encourage students in Native expression and art?
I'm not really that familiar with it because I haven't been to a lot of these schools, but I know one thing for sure, that the romance of the beauty of artwork and stuff is really being lost because of, nobody's doing art anymore. They're all texting.
A follow-up, have you been approached to take your story and your skills into the schools to pass the gifts that you have on?
I'm working with a man right now, Ross Lothrop, out of Canton. And him and me are going to try to get a thing with, he said that every 2 months, I believe, all the principals of the high schools in Sioux Falls meet. And he was going to find out where that was and stuff, and we were going to go talk to them and see if we can at least make a presentation, a one-timer or two-timer presentation about me doing artwork and him talking about the Hiawatha Insane Asylum. And possibly, just any kind of programs or anything. A mural on the wall in the hallway or in a classroom or some kind of artwork other than
Thank you, Jerry, for coming. There are all these lovely cards sitting around the edges that says they are for sale for $3. Is that true? And if we wanted to purchase them, what do we do with the money? Where should we go with it?
Jean is going to set up house with a cash box and I think back there. And so when he's finished, if you want to check out some of the things, because some of you sitting in the back, I know you couldn't see very well, but if you want to come up and peruse the artwork a little more carefully and talk with Jerry about
the story is on the back of every card too. So it's more than just a card and an envelope.
I want to encourage sales, but Gene is not bonded.
Says the lawyer.
Bond, James Bond.
Any other questions then?
That is the next week. You got to get you back here next week. Next week, yeah. Hey, thank you very much. All right, I'll let you run with the